Welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show, your one-stop shop for weird news, movie reviews, otherworldly, and paranormal shenanigans. We'll take a dive into what's going on in creepy pop culture. You can follow Creepin' It Real Show on Twitter at creepin_it. You can email us at creepinitrealshow@gmail.com. You can also go to our website, creepinitshow.com. Welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show. I'm one of your hosts, Yardley, coming live from Atlanta, Georgia, and hopefully in the sunny state of California. I want to bring in my other co-host, Moni.
Hey. So usually sunny. We had one nice day, but I think we're going to need to build an ark out here because we have had not only rain, but like heavy downpours for days on end. And we are not equipped for this shit. People's roofs are falling in. The library's leaking. The local stores are leaking. This has been crazy out here.
Oh, wow. Well, I think we're going to be getting a lot of that coming up, huh, Christy?
Yeah, this year has reminded me, this year as in like not calendar year, but has reminded me a lot of the day after tomorrow. Me and my son were talking about it the other day, and he's like, all this weather and that's on the news, it's like the day after tomorrow. I'm like, seriously, it is. It's crazy. But I think we've like turned into one of the top states for rainfall.
Wow.
The last couple of years, it's been nuts. I think we went on the boat once or twice last summer. It rained every goddamn weekend. So, and it was just a given. We wouldn't even plan. We used to plan and be like, oh no, if it's raining, that means it'll only rain for like 30 minutes. So we can still plan and get out there and, just play by ear. But nope, it just has been awful.
Yeah, I think the cycle of cold and all of this rain is definitely going to affect the people who like to garden. Because, that season is coming up.
You do.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to affect me. So I'm going to be real curious to see how it works out. But even if it's a little later, I think I'll be okay.
Yeah. Well, I got my CBD and my CDB. I got my Clos du Bois and my CDB gummies, and I'm feeling fantastic tonight. So let's do this.
Nice.
Relax.
Well, since you're feeling nice and relaxed, we'll go ahead and jump into some weird news. Now, I've got a little something, a little pop culture-ish thing. Denis Villeneuve's Dune is going to hit theaters in November 2020, and it's based off the 1965 science fiction novel by the American author Frank Herbert. Isn't it Herbert? It's not Herbert, is it? That you... How do you...
That's a question for the librarian.
Okay. Well, for a lot of us old heads, the original Dune movie was out back in 1984, and they've got a nice cast for this. Jason Momoa, Rebecca Ferguson, Josh Brolin, Oscar Isaac, Zendaya, Dave Bautista, and Stellan Skarsgård, and that's just a few of the names.
You had me at Momoa.
Yeah, and I think it was announced just recently that he was going to be in it as well. So he's a pretty hot property nowadays. So is this a yay or a nay? Are y'all interested in this reboot?
Shame on me because I have not really gotten into the Dune story. This could definitely get me into it because I like Jason Momoa. I recently started to like Josh Brolin again because he kind of was a dickwad for a while, but he seems to have redeemed himself somewhat, and I love Zendaya, so any Skarsgård I'm on board with. So pretty solid cast, and I know what the story's about, and I want to say I've seen, wasn't it in the 80s? Yeah, original Dune was 84.
Yeah.
I get this one and the Mad Max movies all confused, so I will have to go back and watch it, and yeah, I could be on board with it.
What about you?
I'll dip my toe. Yeah, I'll try it, especially with this kind of cast.
Did you ever see the 1984 one?
No, but I was a year old, so can I be excused for that?
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, like you, Christy, I remember seeing it, back in the day, but I've never really kept up with it either. But there are certain things from that movie in 84 that I do remember, like him fighting that big worm.
Yeah.
Spice or whatever.
I can totally see Jason Momoa all rough and hardcore, like apocalypse. Clothes are all ripped off of him, and yeah, I could see that. Sure, let's do
She'll
it.
be here all night,
Yep.
folks.
And it's definitely got a fan base because whenever you read things and articles about it, there are a lot of people that are passionate about the source material, but really who knows what direction. But I think I'm going to give it a yay. I'm going to check it out just because of that cast.
Yeah, why not?
Okay, well, Christy, tell us about NASA looking for jokers to become astronauts.
We might have found our next gig. I don't know. NASA is looking for jokers to become astronauts in order to keep morale high on long journeys to Mars. So the plan is to send off the first mission in 2030. They're going to do simulated versions of this starting 1927. Sure, okay. And they're looking for astronauts that have a good sense of humor. This jovial approach to interplanetary travel will help keep crew morale high. Manned missions to Mars will put astronauts in confined space for several years, so they kind of need somebody there to, I guess, keep things light. Astronauts have traditionally been serious, sensible types with the right stuff who can be trusted to fly equipment worth billions of pounds, which is dollars in American money, yes. But any mission to Mars will need a joker or a class clown figure to be successful. So basically, they're taking the typical outer space movie, character roles and just filling them because it must make sense to them. Because, you always have somebody there. You have a whiny asshole. Like the one on Alien really comes to mind, who Bill Paxton played. Good God, I just wanted to punch him throughout that entire fucking movie. And then you always have like the guy who's kind of a jokester who makes, jokes of everything and doesn't take anything seriously. So I'm assuming that they're going to find some big whiny asshole too that everybody wants to punch in the face. So, or there's probably automatically going to be in there. Who knows? But so if anybody wants to apply, it's going to be tested at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. So get out there and apply for your free trip to space for being funny.
And you can, I don't know if you can manufacture joy and funny though.
Yeah.
Because I think the people, I get it because when you're taking trips like that, I guess you will get, I guess you could get bored or whatever, but I would just make my own fun. But hey, it's a job for somebody, so.
And I don't think they're coming back. That's the point. So I don't. They don't have the fuel or whatever. So this is basically like a one-way trip.
Doctor. You got to bring somebody more. Yeah, and that's the useful tool that you'll have if you get stuck. It's a trickster.
You can burn alive on the sun.
The funny one, and then it would suck, and then I would end up being the whiny one.
Yeah, I'd be like, "Hey, this is fantastic! Oh my God, we're never coming back. We're doomed. We're gonna die."
But you give me a paper bag to breathe out of.
Now, between you and Christy, which one of you hold the record for the most poop weird news stories?
Oh God, that's definitely Moni. I saw this one and I was like, damn, Moni, they're like draw you in like bees to honey.
Well, and the more that I click on these, the more that they come upon my feed.
Your remarketing must be interesting in your house.
And it's like, I'm going to try to get through this one without gagging because, oh my gosh, the pictures. Meet the poop hoarder, the woman who hoards and eats her own poop. So this starts off with a mansplanation of the definition of what hoarding is. We all know what hoarding is. Anyway, the world in turn is obsessed with hoarders, blah, 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 blah. A woman named Shanna hoards, wait for it, her own excrement. She's a poop hoarder, guys. In case that wasn't weird enough for you, she's also been eating it because it's contaminated. It has contaminated all of her food. So she's not actually just eating it like pick up a spoon and eat peanut butter out of the container. It's just because it's now smeared all over everything in her house that she ends up, So she's afraid that the toilet's going to overflow. So she is going ahead and while Shanna is the subject of an episode, she has a bucket, and that's where it's a family heirloom. So this
was passed down through the generations, the poop bucket?
Yeah. So she uses this bucket, which was used by her late mother. Well, her mom probably didn't have plumbing. When it's full, she dumps it on her front lawn. My neighbors could view it as being odd, do you fucking think, that I dumped the bucket out in the front yard. No neighbors have said anything. Jesus. So now that's the first problem, though. I'd be over there with a pitchfork. She also pees and poops into bottles that are kept around her house. Her house is literally full of shit, which makes eating there very unhealthy. Well, there's the understatement of the year. She rarely washes her hands, oh my God, and often eats right after handling her bucket or bottles. She's eaten her own excrement due to this contamination. Oh, food. In fact, Shanna was attempting to eat all of the contaminated food in her home before the hoarder's crew cleaned her house, because she doesn't want to waste anything, you guys. It was also like her form of addiction that we've seen in other episodes of the series or even in Intervention. So there you go. Watch this episode of Hoarders if you're interested in seeing this woman eat things contaminated with her own excrement.
Wow, and when the picture of the toilet with the trash that's literally coming up to the rim of it is the worst.
Oh, that's what that is?
Not the guy.
Yeah, that's
I couldn't
what
tell.
that is.
Smeared in excrement. Yep.
It's horrendous.
I'm just
gonna click
glad
off
that's
this
the only picture they provided, and the rest is of people making gross faces, including a tiger, because the tiger really drew my attention to it, and it was like a Serenity Now moment that I didn't have to think about the poop all over her house. So I appreciate
I was focusing on Brittany's face. Thanks.
Yeah. They have all these different pictures of people going, ew. Well, that's a great story, Moni. I'm glad I have not eaten yet, so then it will great diet material there.
Well, yeah, I'm ready to get off of these.
Can we get off the poop train of horror?
I think.
So yes, more next week. I heard you. Fans,
more. This is a real poop train of horror, like the one that crashed in Mississippi or wherever that was. Remember? I started it.
Yeah, that's right. Wasn't it going through? Was it going through Mississippi or was it Texas?
I think it was Mississippi or Alabama. I can't remember which one, but I remember it was called the Poop Train of Horror, and Moni just continues the poop train of horror for us all. It's
like whoa, all the way out west, y'all. Get on or get out.
All right. Well, let me slide through that poop into our review.
Thank God.
Of Overlord. Okay, so today we're going to give a review of Overlord. It ended up being 80% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, and the movie is essentially on the eve of D-Day. American paratroopers drop behind enemy lines to penetrate the walls of a fortified church and destroy a radio transmitter. As the soldiers approach their target, they soon begin to realize that there's more going on in the Nazi-occupied village than a simple military operation. Making their way to an underground lab, the outnumbered men stumble on a sinister experiment that forces them into a vicious battle against the army of the undead. Now, please tell me both of you have finished watching this movie.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I bought the movie.
Okay, yeah, that's what's up. I did too, Moni. I couldn't wait till it came out. I just went ahead and grabbed it on digital.
Yep.
So, all right, well, let's just dive into this this summary. And, on the eve of D-Day, the 5th of June, 1944, a paratrooper squad is sent to destroy a German radio tower in an old church. However, their plane ends up getting shot down before they can reach their target, leaving only 5 apparent survivors: Corporal Ford and Soldiers Boyce, Tibbet, Chase, and Dawson.
First of all, I'm mad you skipped the whole who these people are in the movie, because Wyatt Russell is hot as shit. I had to look him up and be like, I am following
He was in Black Mirror also.
around. He is, but I mean, I can't remember that one little episode. I knew
I remember because of fucking Spider, but anyway.
I knew it was like I had seen him before, but I'm like, where have I seen him before? And I hope I see more of him because he's hot.
Isn't he Kate Hudson's half brother or something?
Is that who he? You're right.
Russell.
Let's just say that. Anyway, moving on.
Thirsty.
Well, let me ask both of you a little bit something about how we watch movies. So when you're watching movies, how do you feel about being dropped right into the middle of the action, right at the beginning? And
That's
would you have preferred?
favorite.
I loved it.
Love it?
I
My dad
love
had
it.
a rule when I was growing up: if someone didn't get naked or die within the first like 2 minutes, then we're out. So
The first 15 minutes of this movie, and I'm not saying I hated the movie at all, but the first 15 minutes was my favorite. Holy shit. I was gripping like my hands and everything. It was so, oh my gosh, I loved it. It reminded me of a horror version of that movie, the whole war movie about D-Day, where maybe it wasn't, was it World War II, where they storm the beaches and it's got, is it Saving Private Ryan? I don't know. It's one of those. But anyway, it reminded me of that. It was just like, holy shit. I mean, you are catapulted into this insanity within minutes of the movie. And I freaking love that.
Yeah, and they do those types of things like, the narrative exposition, like in soap operas or whatever. So you pretty much do have a real quick view of what's going on. Mm-hmm. I definitely love it too when it's done well. So to kind of piggyback off of what Christy was talking about, the first 15 minutes, it was definitely one of those things where you kind of felt like they made you feel like you were in that situation. And if you were listening to it in surround sound, it was even more, it was
very
even
intense.
More crazy.
Yeah.
And actually, this was kind of I don't want to say it was a low budget movie, but I think with the amount that they made the movie for and having the right director, I think it did make this kind of an enjoyable ride to follow these characters through this adventure.
Mm-hmm. And I kept thinking, like, while it was happening, that honestly, zombies aside, because the zombies aren't here yet, this is probably what that was like, paratrooping or riding behind enemy lines and the war. Like, I could see, it just made me sick, just all the human casualty that happened. It was just, and it wasn't like, oh, this is outrageous. And, it probably did kind of look like that, So that was what I kept thinking was, yeah, this is a movie, but this very well could have been somebody's vision of somebody's experience. So it was crazy.
Well, it was done that way also just to get your anxiety up as a viewer, really early. So if that's the point to suck you in, they definitely did a good job with that.
Yeah.
So one of the early post-jump deaths that we see is Sergeant Eldson, who's played by Bakeem Woodbine. He's being gunned down by Nazis after being captured from the jump. The next death we see is Dawson being killed by a landmine after talking about a book that he's writing. And couldn't you see that coming, though?
I knew he wasn't going to last long, but I definitely didn't see him just walk. They were all walking, and then boom, it's just this explosion, It was like that.
That's war, y'all.
I was not expecting that. I know that happens, but I just was intent on the conversation, and then it was like, bah,
I knew that he was gone as soon as he was saying, I think he literally uttered the phrase, and when I finish my book, I was like, he's doomed. But, after he dies, the team continues forward. They run into a French woman named Chloe, who hesitantly agrees to take them into the village where the radio tower is located. So the soldiers learn that Chloe lives with an 8-year-old brother named Paul and her aunt, who've been disfigured by Nazi experiments that were taking place in the church. After Tibbet and Chase depart to check the schedule of the rendezvous site, the remaining soldiers are forced to hide into the attic, where a Nazi patrol performs a routine inspection.
Quote,
so
unquote.
During this inspection, SS Waffner attempts to rape Chloe. Boyce and Ford capture him. And what better way to become the bad guy to anybody watching a movie or a TV show than from the jump off, you sexually assaulting a woman the first time we meet you in the story. And it's played by the Pilu Osbike, who plays a lot of douches because he's like Euron Greyjoy in Game of Thrones. And everything I've seen him in, it's like the same thing. He plays like the ultimate douchebag. So what were y'all feeling about his portrayal of SS Wapner?
And it's not so much about the actor either. He's always great, but I I'm quote unquote glad that they had this scene. And that's just because, you know, a lot of times my dad studies a lot of World War II and a lot of things. And all these times when you don't see the female characters like getting raped, where they can be safe as a kitten and with all these, you know, enemy men, that's just not how it was. Like, this is what they did when they came in as enemies. This was war. So I thought it was kind of realistic, and also, of course, grabbed you as like, this is a bad guy, and we're glad that he gets caught right away.
Yeah, I also was. I mean, I get why they did that in the movie, but I was kind of annoyed that they captured him, because I don't think that. I mean, of course, that wasn't a part of the initial plan, and so I was annoyed but glad at the same time. I don't know how to even voice that. I was just kind of like, you could have, you know. Clearly, this guy's done this before. It seemed like a routine, and you know, you could, like, this could have gone really bad, you know, if with what you did. And I know it was meant to be that way, and it was meant to do that way, but I also am like, was kind of on board with the whatever his name is, the colonel or whatever the hell he is. What is he? A colonel? The hot guy? What was he? Anyway, corporal. Yeah. So I could kind of see why he was frustrated too. It was like, this shit happens, you know, totally get why he did it, but also could have completely fucked up the whole mission too. You know,
yeah, my husband was like, unfortunately, you kind of have to let that happen in that situation, and of course he doesn't, which makes you like the character more in the show, in the movie. Of course, but yeah.
But I saw both sides on it, and I was kind of like, you really could have fucked shit up, you know, if this wasn't a movie, because of course his men are going to come back and get him. So
that was the problem.
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, I apologize. All of a sudden, 8 o'clock at night, the people next door start hammering shit. So
I can't hear it.
Hear a little of that, that's kind of out of my control.
Let's redecorate.
Attempting to reach the rendezvous point, Boyce witnesses the Nazis burning disfigured village residents. He's nearly caught by a dog, and he's forced to take refuge in a truck carrying the bodies of some of the other paratroopers that died on the mission. So once inside the base, Boyce learns that there are various experiments taking place in the lab based around a mysterious liquid compound the Nazis discovered by distilling an ancient tar from under the church through human bodies. Boyce takes a sample of the serum and rescues Rosenfeld, another member of a paratrooper squad that was captured by the Nazis, and they escape the castle. Now, this took some guts, because, you know, when I'm watching it, you know, like every movie has a moment where you're like, you know, why the hell did you do that? But he saw this guy with a humongous tube that appeared to be in his abdomen somehow. But I think that kind of seals the deal on us understanding the type of character that Boyce is, a guy who's willing to go that extra mile and maybe even sacrifice what's going on, which, I don't know, I think it does have to be the mission above everything else, but it just shows that the guy, you know, he's a very empathetic guy.
Well, you also, I mean, there were the, of course, foreshadowing stories where one of the soldiers was saying he's not a real soldier, he's too soft, and the mouse story, and the, you know, so they kind of built him up, so you kind of knew this is the type, this is going to be the main character, and B, that's just who he is. He's a good guy, and he's going to he's going to prove to the audience that he is actually a good soldier, and not, you know, he can do both. He can be good and he can be soft, but he can also, you know, get the mission done and save as many lives as possible. So I don't know. I thought, you know, I think he's awesome. I don't know much about the actor himself, but he did an amazing job here. So
he was in that movie, what was it, Fences, I think, that just came out a couple of years ago with Denzel Washington.
Okay.
Yeah, he was in that movie, and apparently he did, you know, really well. But the thing that I found was strange for Boyce to do that was also the fact that, you know, they kind of go through and show you different experiments that are going on, and one is like the head and just the spine and things like that. So I was kind of thinking that he's going to rescue this guy, and, you know, when he takes him back, he'll end up turning into a monster or something like that. It didn't end up happening, but I thought that there would be some consequence behind that. Well, what about you, Moni?
Almost more than the rape scene. That one, I think I would have probably maybe ended the guy's life, like to be merciful, but I don't know that I would have made that save. And it's just because of the mission needing to be important. And you don't know the extent of his injuries or how much more pain he's going to be in, even if you do manage to both of you escape alive from that situation. So I think I would have probably given him a little quiet mercy killing and kept going. But that I guess that says a lot more about me or about him, right?
Well, yeah, you definitely have to make decisions in that situation. I mean, for me, I probably would have had to move on just for the fact of looking at the other experiments. So I don't know, what's going to happen with this guy. I figure at best I'd say I'd be back, but the mission is to, of
I
course,
would
to
have. That's
get
what
up
I would have
and
done. Yeah, I would have been like,
so,
"Hey, I'll get you on the flip side."
but hey, saying, but Boyce
I
is
feel like he's in so much pain. I would have been like, okay, here's a little throat slit and I'm on my way. Like,
he's,
little prayer for you. See you later.
Thoughts and
he's
prayers.
a kick-ass person. So
Yes,
we'll
for
just give him the
sure.
credit. That is his character. So
Mhm.
we go back at the attic, and Wapner refuses to explain that the serum, where the serum is when he's questioned, and he's beaten by Ford. As the squad prepares to assault the church, Wapner attempts to escape, shooting and killing Chase in the process, driving Boyce to use the serum that he found at the underground experiment facility.
That was
Um,
that shit.
he used it on Chase after his
Oh
death.
my God.
And the serum pretty much restores him back to life, but he immediately begins to mutate, getting all the superhuman strength. He was also pretty much resistant to gunfire and immediately turned hostile. That was one of the highlights for me, was his transformation. After they put that serum in him. It was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
And
It
that's
was
what I'm
intense.
saying. Some things are more painful than death. And that's why I would have probably left the guy on the tube. And same with this. I would have been like, okay, dead is better than this shit. Like, wow.
Yeah, I don't know. Christy, would you have thought that this serum that I brought back to show the corporal? I mean, would you have thought to inject him or?
No, because he
or
saw the outcome of it in those vault rooms that were in the church. So I did not understand why he did that. Why would you? He knew it would bring him back to life, but he didn't know how. He saw, what were they? He looked in that little hole when he was in the church, and that eye came across. And so he knew this wasn't going to be a bring it back to life, and it just be him in normal. He had seen.
Never is.
Yeah. So I was a little like, well, you're the one that's has the huge heart, and I kind of see why I did it. I personally would not have fucking done that, because you don't know what you're getting, and you have enough opposition going on around you. Like, the last thing you need is some foreign character coming in fucking everything up for you.
True.
Okay, so Chase is just breaking fool, and he's beating everybody up, and he's showing resistance to everything that they're throwing at him for the most part. But Boyce ends up pulverizing his head with the back of his rifle. So he ends up basically just beating his head to a pulp, and they end up killing him. So in the midst of the chaos, Wapner ends up escaping while taking Paul as a hostage. And when he's taking Paul as a hostage, he's trying to get in this vehicle, and he literally gets half of his face blown off in this shootout. I didn't know that it was as bad as it was until we see what happened to him later.
Yeah.
No, they purposely kept it from you until he gets to the church, and then you're like, oh, fuck.
You have a little something on your,
It reminded me of, and excuse me, because I don't have a lot of superhero knowledge of all the comics, but the guy who gets his face blown up, and is it Batman? Oh, it's the Joker movies. Two-Face.
Two-Face.
Is that him? The one with half the face that's all blown up, and the other half is, and he was like a DA or something.
Yep.
Yeah, that guy. That's what it reminded me of. Anyway.
Now, something else that was cool about this, if we want to kind of go back and talk a little bit more about Chase's transformation, it was gruesome, but they managed to make it kind of humorous at the same time. And this is also something that I felt that the movie did a great job of, was in certain levity in just enough situations that it might have been too much to take without it. So I thought that was really cool, how Chase actually was feeling okay
Yeah.
for a hot second, saying that he was
Yeah, he's
thirsty.
like, I feel great.
And he was
Yeah,
like still his sweet little self. I mean, he was such a sweet kid, just real nice and kind and it's funny to see him go from that, and he wakes up and he's like, gosh, golly, what happened? What's going on? Gee, I'm really thirsty. And then to go from that to it was like, whoa, what the hell's going on? Because we hadn't seen that transformation yet. This was the first time we had seen it, and it was on this like puppy dog kid, which was humorous.
Yeah, but when Boyce ends up ejecting Chase, I actually thought, because, at this point, they were beating up Waffner to try to get him to tell about the experiments. I thought that they were going to threaten to stick him with it to try to get him to tell, but it ended up
I thought he was going to take it. Like I thought he was going to steal it and use it. He ended up using some, but I thought he was going to steal that one and use it on himself to get out. But that didn't happen. But yeah, it was interesting.
So with the time running out until the deadline when the radio tower has to be destroyed, Boyce ends up convincing Ford that destroying the laboratory has to be their priority. While Rosenfeld and Tibbet kill all the soldiers posted at the main entrance, Ford, Boyce, and Chloe enter the base through the sewers Boyce previously used to escape, with Boyce and Ford planting the explosives while Chloe rescues Paul. Chloe is a badass with the flamethrower. She was really a great character. Hey, did y'all think that they were kind of hinting at there being potential for something between her and Boyce?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was definitely something there.
Well, and she's adorbs, and I always think of these moments, not that I am complaining in any way, but when you see a hot chick with something like a flamethrower, it just turns into I feel like some of these directors or some of these writers are sometimes like 12-year-old boys in the best possible way. They're just like, and then the hot chick gets a flamethrower, and she just fucks everything up.
She's like the French Ripley.
Yes. What is it we want to see next? Hot chicks with flamethrowers.
Score.
So as we had mentioned earlier, Waffner ends up, we end up finding out that he ends up taking the serum. So Ford ends up being attacked by a mutated Waffner who's injected himself not even just once, but he did it multiple times with the substance that he was injected himself with was different than the one that I think that he injected, that we saw injected in Chase.
Was it?
It looked like it was two different colors.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Because Waffner's body didn't do all of that, it mutate and then just get out of control. So obviously he must have known a little bit more.
I thought the difference was that Chase was fully dead and Waffner was still half alive when he injected himself. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe that is the case. Did you catch that, Christy? Or
I didn't catch that. I didn't. And the weird part about this, and I don't know why, only because this happened. I watched this movie, and then right after I turned off the movie and I turned on cable, and The Mask came on. And it was weirdly similar. I don't know how to explain it, but it was like,
it
was really weirdly similar to this movie, and I had not seen it since the 90s. I had not seen it. It was like the good guy with the serum, and then the bad guy with the serum, which would have played, with Chase and the bad guy. But anyway, it was just weird. It was oddly weird, weirdly similar. But I did not notice that it was anything different. I knew, though, when he came into the picture that he would end up with the serum in him. I knew that was going to happen because that's just kind of the typical progression of a movie like this is he's the ultimate, bad guy asshole, and you got to take it up a notch to really make it crazy. So it was just a matter of time, I figured.
Yeah. Well, so this brutal fight goes on between Ford and Waffner, which pretty much parallel the exact torture, because that's what it was that Ford inflicted on him earlier in the film. So I really do like how they brought that back. I mean, he did everything to him, to Ford, that Ford did to him, even down to the brass knuckles.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty brutal. But the hook through the chest.
Yeah, he took it up a notch.
Oh my God.
He took it up a notch for
My
sure.
poor husband, we were having that discussion over on Creeping It Real about 2 weeks ago, like what scene from a movie really got you from like a horror film. And he was mentioning in both the Texas Chainsaw Massacre original and remake how they stick the guy on the hook and he's still alive. And he's like, I don't know why, but that really fucked me up like all through my teens. And as soon as this part happened, he's like, oh no. And he's like looking away. He never gets like skeeved by anything, but he couldn't handle that.
Oh my gosh, when he was trying to get off the hook, I was like, oh.
I know, that was the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, what made it worse, because he was trying to pull himself off of it, and then he got weak, and it went right back down, and then he had to do it twice, so it was pretty...
Yeah, you want to make sure you got all your strength for that one.
Exactly. So, as the fight ensues, Boyce ends up distracting Waffner, and the injured Ford injects himself again with another sample of the serum, allowing Boyce to blow Waffner down the pit where the compound was discovered with an explosion. But Ford then forces Boyd to leave him behind and finish setting off the dynamite, believing that neither side should possess the serum, which is a good idea. Basically, he just didn't want anybody to have it, even the Allies. It was just one of those things where he saw what it could do, and he just, wanted to make sure everything was destroyed. So I thought that was a great decision by Ford to do that. So
y'all just solved a very big question I had about the ending, but keep going.
Okay.
Keep going. I just realized you just completely answered something. I mean, it wasn't a huge question, but it was like, oh, that's why. Okay, keep going, and I'll point it out later.
Okay. All right, so he basically decides neither side should have it. He's end up succeeding in blowing up the radio tower in the laboratory. Boyce narrowly escapes the church as the radio tower collapses, and that one-shot sequence was great at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, that continuous sequence, I just really need to know how they shot that. So that was great. I had to watch that a couple of times. After the destruction of the radio tower, Boyce reports to the superiors that Ford chose to plant the bombs inside the church rather than inside to ensure its destruction, choosing to avoid mentioning the serum that was at the lab. The military pretty much accepts his story and informs the soldiers that they'll be reassigned to another company as the war continues. And that's how it ends. So, Christy, you were basically wondering what... what that nod was.
I thought he didn't want them to dig down to see the bodies, like the dead people down there that are clearly not human. I did not even think about the fact that they didn't want anybody to find the stuff that's underneath the church. Did not. Yeah. I mean, they probably described it, and I missed that piece. But I didn't, and now when you say that, I'm like, oh, that means, because for him to lie is a big deal, right? So it was like, because he's the church boy, very sweet, very kind, wants to always do right. So I was kind of like, I mean, why wouldn't you say there were fucking zombies down there? Oh, because you didn't want them to get their hands on it either. I get it now. Just call me Slow Christy.
And I guess also you could say that there's a certain lesson about how sometimes people who are in charge need to listen to the people, that aren't, because sometimes, what they say are things that can, end up helping you in the long run. So I thought that was cool. But overall, this movie, it just showed me you don't have to spend a bunch of money. It's just that when you target and put your money into places where it's best served, like the first 15 minutes of this movie and the last 15 minutes, I think that you can pull it off. And I thought for the most part, I thought it was decently written. There weren't too many moments for me. I liked the comedy, and I definitely liked the effects, and I liked all the actors. They all played their parts and their roles well. So what stuck out to you the most, Christy? Do you have any favorite parts?
I loved the beginning, and I'm with you. I think the beginning of the movie and the end, I really loved them. I really loved the movie. I'll watch it again. This is a movie that I could watch again. There's a lot of movies that I like that if they were on cable, I wouldn't even fucking watch them because there's so much buildup, and then it happened. The big reveal happens. And that makes you not want to watch it anymore. This is continuously good action. It's a great storyline. And I think even now we're having this conversation and I watched this once, it makes me want to go back and watch it again. There are pieces I clearly missed or want to see again just having this conversation. So I really liked the ending. I liked the fight scene between, and I'm going to Wafner or whatever the hell his name is, and Ford. I liked that scene, them together. It was like a weird tit for tat kind of relationship with them, and Wafner was fixated on him anyway, and I thought that was an interesting way they ended it. Ford, sacrificed himself for the mission, which seemed to be his entire mentality through the entire movie, and he went down with it. And then to see Boyce make it through, and I was surprised the people that live. What's the short guy that's funny who has that like New York accent? I can't remember his name, but
yeah, I'm trying to find his name.
He was the comic relief, of the movie, and I think it worked out really well. And I liked the undertone of Chloe and Boyce being attracted to each other.
It was
Tibbet, yes.
Tibbet, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it wasn't like played out in the movie. And so you're left kind of wondering. Some things I don't like the answers to. I like that. Like, what happens, after the war? Are they going to know each other? Are you going to get to know, like, what's happening? I don't want to know that stuff. Those are the things I like to kind of just form my own little storyline as a side, item. So I really enjoyed this movie. It was awesome.
I don't even think that we discussed the first time Boyce had saw Chloe's aunt through the door.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I was like, oh man, so he actually got injected with some fuckery. Really
yeah, I mean, I think it was like the test, like they were probably a part of like the test people that didn't get. I don't know how, but a lot of them got flamethrowed, which was weird. So that looked like her, because remember he was looking through the forest and he saw like them unload a bunch of people that were gasping for air like her and had all those bumps all over them like her aunt did, and they lined them up in a line and then burnt them, which is how she knew to burn the other guy. Do y'all remember that?
Moni, what was your favorite kill in the movie?
Favorite kill? I don't know. I was going to say how much I liked this movie because overall, I think that, well, Chloe with a flamethrower, anything she kills with that is amazing. But this is a zombie movie, but it's not another zombie movie, if that makes any sense. For instance, the zombies are not walking slowly behind you, which I think the three of us had agreed previously is not our favorite type of zombie. We like the fast-moving ones. They're not here necessarily to just eat your brains. They're not mindless. Yeah. And I've read a lot of books in my time about World War II, both fiction and nonfiction. And the shit that the Germans actually did, those German doctors actually did in experiments on human beings, this is so like, obviously it's a zombie movie, but for a horror film is so feasible. And while there wasn't a lot of time in the movie where I was like, oh, that's scary. Oh, this is so scary. The concept is unsettling because, quite frankly, something like this, I'm sure they were trying to develop some kind of super serum. I'm sure, the things that they used to do, putting different people's body parts on different places where they're not supposed to go while people are still alive, that's totally in line with how the Germans actually behaved during World War II. And this movie really captures that intense feeling. I mean, I like how, with the exception of seeing the grandmother, the aunt, whatever, we don't see the zombies for a good 15, 20 minutes into the film. It's just a World War II movie, but it's already suspenseful enough,
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed this film for those reasons. And as far as leaving it buried the way that they did, I mean, they kind of left behind, thank God, the experiments that the Germans actually were doing. And so it's right in line with kind of how things happen in history.
Well, yeah, I mean, we pulled over several scientists from Germany that were under Hitler's guard, who we ended up making atomic bombs. I mean, the shit that they were doing over there, like you said, was seriously fucked up. I just listened to the last podcast on the Left's talk about Dr. Mandela or whatever his name is. I can't remember. Maybe it's not Mandela, Maglio or something. Anyway, he was one of the main doctors at Auschwitz who was doing those tests on the twins. He was fascinated with twins and body parts and how to make like a super soldier. Yep. And so this is totally, in a weird way, kind of realistic to what they were doing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, I definitely need to get this in. I want to give a shout out to Alicia, who left some kind words in our inbox. Apparently, she binged Haunted, which was on Netflix, and she wants us to talk about it at some point. And yeah, those kind words, it means a lot, you know, whenever people give their feedback. So I just want to give you a shout out and thank you.
Awesome. Yes. Yeah, thanks, Alicia. You know what? I went back after I saw that, and I'm like, I know I've watched Haunted. I cannot remember one episode of. Now I got to go back and watch it again because I'm like, I know
I've seen anthology.
Yeah.
Yeah, and where the one where the girl's dad was a serial killer.
Yeah. Okay, I remember that, but I don't remember
and there's a ghost one where she has a ghost lover that chases away her real husband, and they're still like in love.
Sorry,
I think I only watched one of them, so I'm gonna have to rewatch it. I'm game. I'm game to
let's watch them.
Check it out, and
there was a big thing about the one whose dad was the serial killer, and because it was like up in the mountain, it was in a mountain, like a mountain cabin.
The stuff that she describes having seen him do as she was growing up, oh my god, that really haunted me.
Yeah, there's lots of people that say that there's no way this happened because there's no like news or anything online that backs this up, and I'm like,
it's real to her.
Yeah, I'm like, what? That doesn't mean it didn't happen. I mean, maybe I'm too gullible, but yeah, whatever it is. Yeah, I remember that one, and I like read all those. People were losing their shit. Like they were, like pulling up all kinds of stuff, researching everything, trying to figure out like who this dad was, and couldn't figure it out. So then it must be fake. But also, for on the conversation of shows and movies, I've watched a couple of really good ones. The last, really good. I mean, that's to be, I guess, judged by the watcher. But I did watch some really fucked up movies the last couple of days. On Shudder, I watched Beast and The Loved Ones. Beast takes place in like a small UK island. And this girl, she's got her own shit going on and meets this guy who's got his own shit going on, and just their journey through. Her parents are assholes, and it's different and weird, and the ending was really like, very different. So I would recommend it. It's definitely worth a watch. And The Loved Ones is an Australian film, and whoa, is it fucked up. Holy shit.
Yeah, it's really fucked up. With Robin McLeavy.
Yes.
You know, we've had her, me and Kente have had her on our podcast at least, I don't know, 3 or 4 times.
The Killer?
You know, she was on, she played Eva on Hell on Wheels.
Mm-hmm.
And we had that podcast going on, so she's been on the show. But yeah, she's a good person and a great actress, and that was also a role that we were kind of we loved talking to her about.
Shit.
Yeah,
I would love to hear that, because I was watching it last night, and Rick just happened to be laying next to me, and he's like, "You watch the most fucked up movies I have ever." I'm like, I mean, that's just what I get all my fucked up I get it all out of my system watching this crazy shit. And he's like, thank God. Mm-hmm. I mean, this movie it's probably one of the best revenge movies I've ever seen. It was different, and I did not have go into it with low expectations. It is, and that's the thing I love about Shudder. They bring movies in from outside of the United States. So you get such an awesome taste of what is happening over, not necessarily overseas, but wherever. And I was impressed by it. And slow to the take, I watched 11/22/63 finally, which I had read the book. Actually, Dave loaned me that book forever ago, and I read it, and it was really good. by Stephen King, and then I found out they're doing the show, and I was so excited, and then I kind of forgot about it. And I got on Hulu, I think it was, and it's on Hulu. So it's the movie, it's got James Franco in it, and he has the ability to go back in time and try to stop the JFK assassination. And the subsequent things that happen while he's trying to do that, and does he succeed, and then what happens if he does succeed is interesting. And I thought it was pretty good for just being a series. I think it's like 8 parts. So if you're interested in some Stephen King weirdness, you can check that one out too.
Hey, y'all, does Shudder rotate in and out movies, or is their catalog? Okay.
Yeah, they're really good. They're doing a really good job of Black History Month films right now. They have Film Noir, which is a documentary based on it. And then they have an entire section of movies rotating around like Black History Month. And then they have like which was where The Loved Ones was in, the Valentine's Day kind of quote unquote movies. So they're really good with bringing in new movies or series. I also watched, what was it? Not Vampire Diaries. Anyway, it was okay. It was a series. It was kind of cheesy. Where a girl's a witch Chronicles, I think it is, and she falls in love with a vampire, and that's just not to be done in the world of witches. But anyway, it was cheesy. It kind of reminded me of Twilight, but it was watchable if you're interested in, like, I don't watch reality TV like Atlanta Housewives. I watch shit like that instead. It's like my trash TV. So if you like some good hardcore like trash TV that rotates around this kind of stuff, then you should check that one out too. So I totally recommend Shudder. I don't know about Moni, but it's $5 a month. I mean, and you get all kinds of crazy stuff in there. You never know, and you get a lot of classics. So we're not getting paid to say this. I just truly do like that app. It's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's what's up. So I guess we should dive into what we're going to talk about in the next episode. Moni, what do you got?
Yeah, we're definitely going to switch gears and dive into our Ancient Giants reel. Spoilers, they are, but we will talk about to what extent that's true. And I'm actually going to watch an episode of a Travel Channel show called Legends of the Lost, which is hosted by Hottie McHotterson, Megan Fox.
Yeah, that's random.
I have no idea. Yeah, I have no idea
what?
if she's going to be smart or entertaining in it, but she'll look pretty.
Yeah.
But I've heard the content is extremely interesting. There's a specific episode called America's Lost Civilization, and it is about the possible findings of the remains of what would be giants to us in North America. So if y'all are interested in watching along, it's on Travel Channel, or it is no more than $3 on iTunes or Amazon or Google Play. I hope you guys get a chance to watch it along with us, but we're also going to talk about some of the research that I'm bringing in on ancient giants and the remains found in other parts of the world.
Hey, Megan Fox is the one that was in Ninja Turtles.
Yes, dude.
And what was that movie, that horror movie? I love watching that movie.
Jennifer's Body.
Jennifer's Body. That's the one that
I'm thinking. She hasn't done a lot since like Transformers and stuff. But
that's what it was. It Transformers as well, but the Shia LaBeouf Transformers.
It's kind of like when they had Alone in the Dark, where they had Tara Reid put on glasses and call herself an archaeologist. It's supposed to be a good show anyway, so.
Yeah, I'm totally. I mean, I loved her in Jennifer's Body. She was funny. I mean, it was very like.
She's a nice lady. It's just, she kind of got ruined after working on Transformers. So.
What is that? Jennifer's Body? Is that a comedy?
It's a horror movie. It's really good.
Written by Diablo Cody, actually, and it also has the Mamma Mia chick. Oh my God, what's her name?
Yeah.
The blonde.
Yep, I know. I can see her face. I can't think of her name.
She's in everything. How do we not know her?
I know.
Just a tattoo that says Minge on her body. Hold on.
Oh, she was in Bullworth too, wasn't she?
Oh.
She played that.
She's adorable.
We are failing right now. We are just fired.
Well,
find it really quick so I can sleep
On your
tonight.
fucking
Yeah.
TV.
Because I will
It's
not
just
sleep.
not that-
I'll be
not even
laying there
that
going,
serious.
it's something, and she has
I
glass.
know. I'm gonna wake up being like, I have the answer. I have the answer.
It'll be at like 5 in the morning.
Amanda Seyfried.
There it is.
Okay.
Yeah, Amanda Seyfried. That's her. Yeah.
Anyway, yes.
So
Jennifer Lawrence
wasn't she in
recommended-
that movie Bulworth too, Moni? The one with the Eddie Murphy movie about the actor. Well, wasn't she in that?
Oh, let me see.
No,
She's in another like one of those comedies where she plays like the token hot chick that like breaks up the
She's
marriages.
Mean Girls. She's
too.
in Mean Girls too. She was the weather detector. Remember
Oh,
where
you're
she
talking
grabs her
about-
boobs?
Okay, we're talking about. I thought we were
I
talking
must
about
be
Megan
talking
Fox.
about somebody else.
Oh, I thought you were talking about
Anyway,
Amanda
somebody that we used to
Seyfried.
know.
Okay, but all right.
Woo!
Well,
This
unless
went
you
off the
ladies
rails.
Got anything else? I think it's time for us to rattle off our social media. So
Rattle
for me,
off is right.
I
Sorry.
can be found on Twitter at militant_marker.
I'm motherfucking Moni Barrett. Moni Bear on Instagram and Rebel Moni on the Tweeter.
Tweeters. We are creepin_it on the Twitter, and I am creepinit Christy on Instagram. And if you would like to be ever so kind, if you could please like push the little star button on your iTunes and rate us on there, and unless it's a 1, then please don't do that, because that's really not nice to do. You know, sometimes if you don't have anything nice to
Any
say,
of this happened.
don't push the star at all. Well, that's really kind of my theory on it. If you really love us, then please go ahead and give us a rating. If you'd like to give us a review, even better, subscribe, do whatever that floats your boat. That would be wonderful.
So what are you saying? Either it's a high five or walk your ass on by.
It doesn't have to be a 5, but I don't want a 1 either, damn it.
And all that being said, everybody, creep it real.